On Thanksgiving, my parents asked me to give my entire bonus to my brother, claiming he needed it more. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it. "That's funny," I said, "because I have a surprise for you too." The looks on their faces immediately dropped as I opened my laptop to reveal everything. Thanksgiving had always been a time for family, laughter, and plenty of food, but this year it would be something completely different. It was the day everything came to light, the day years of favoritism, manipulation, and entitlement came crashing down. And for once, I wasn't the one left in the shadows. For once, I wasn't the one getting the short end of the stick. Growing up, I always knew I wasn't the golden child. That title belonged to my younger brother, Daniel. My parents fawned over him, giving him everything he wanted and constantly bailing him out of his bad decisions. Meanwhile, I was the responsible one, the one who never asked for anything and the one who silently took on the burden. I got used to hearing, "Well, Daniel needs it more." I worked hard to get where I was. I paid my own way through college with scholarships and side jobs, worked long hours, and climbed the corporate ladder. Finally, after years of grinding, I landed a job that paid me what I was worth. This year, I received my biggest bonus yet. I hadn't even told my parents about it, but they found out. We were sitting around the Thanksgiving table, passing dishes and making small talk. Then my mom, with that sweet voice she always used when she was about to ask for something, looked at me and said, "So we were thinking." I immediately knew where this was going. She and my dad exchanged a glance before she continued. "Since you got that big bonus, we figured it would really help if you gave it to Daniel. He's been struggling so much lately." I blinked, genuinely thinking she was joking. Then I let out a small laugh. "That's funny," I said, "because I have a surprise for you too." Their faces lit up for a brief moment, likely thinking I was about to make a generous offer. That's when I pulled out my laptop. I opened the folder I had spent months compiling. Screenshots, receipts, emails, everything. I turned the screen toward them. Silence. My mom's smile froze. My dad's face paled. Daniel, who had been smirking, suddenly looked like a deer caught in headlights. What they didn't know, what they never bothered to ask, was that I had been keeping track of everything. The money they'd borrowed, the things they'd taken but never returned, and all the excuses they'd made for Daniel while expecting me to be the responsible one. But that wasn't even the worst part. I had something else, something bigger, that would make sure they never asked me for another dime again. I took a deep breath, leaned back in my chair and said, "I hope you're ready for this." My mom reached for her wine glass, her hand shaking. My dad just stared at the laptop, his jaw clenched so tight I thought his teeth might crack. And Daniel, well, he was already looking for a way out, shifting in his seat, eyes darting around the room like a rat trapped in a cage. I let the silence hang in the air for a moment, savoring their discomfort. Then I tapped the screen and said slowly, This is every bank transfer I've ever sent you. Every loan that was never paid back. Every emergency bill you couldn't cover because Daniel needed help." I scrolled down. The numbers added up to thousands. Tens of thousands. My mom started to say something, but I held up my hand to stop her. "I'm not done." I clicked to the next file. "This," I continued, "is Daniel's credit card history." Daniel sucked in a sharp breath. "How the hell did you?" I cut him off. "You're not as smart as you think you are." He had no idea I had access to his statements. He had no idea that every time my parents asked me for help because Daniel was supposedly drowning in bills, he was actually spending money on bars, expensive sneakers, and vacations. I had screenshots of Instagram posts where he flexed with bottles of champagne at clubs, trips to Miami, Las Vegas, Mexico. Hell, I even had a photo of him standing next to a brand new gaming setup that cost more than my rent. My mom turned to him, her voice trembling. "Is this true?" she whispered. Daniel scoffed. "It's not that serious." I laughed, a bitter, mocking laugh. "Oh, but it is," I said. "And do you know why?" I clicked to the final file. My dad spoke for the first time, his voice low and dangerous. "What else could there possibly be?" I turned the screen to face them again. "This," I said, my voice steady, "is the record of the mortgage payments I made on this house. The one you told me was already paid off." My mom's face went white. My dad let out a slow breath, his hand gripping the table like he might flip it over. "Yeah," I continued, "I found out. About a year ago, my parents had come to me in tears, claiming they were in danger of losing the house. They begged me for help, swearing they just needed a little to get back on their feet. I was hesitant but didn't want them to be homeless, so I paid. And paid. And paid. Then I got curious. I did some digging and discovered the house was never in danger. The money, well, it was gone. And I found out where it went. Daniel. They had funneled the money straight to him. His struggles, his hard times, his vacations, his parties, his fun. I leaned back and crossed my arms. So tell me again, I said, my voice cold, why exactly should I give him my bonus? The room was so quiet I could hear the clock ticking in the kitchen. My dad's voice finally broke the silence, low and controlled. You went behind our backs. His eyes were filled with rage. You stole from me. You stole from me, I shot back. Daniel slammed his hand on the table. You're making a big deal out of nothing. No, I snapped, nothing. You lied to me, over and over again. You expected me to keep giving, to hand over more money while you spent it on this loser. Daniel stood up, fury burning in his eyes. I'm not a loser. My dad's voice dropped, flat and firm. Sit down. For a moment, Daniel hesitated, but something in my dad's tone made him drop back into his seat, fuming. My mom reached for me, her voice soft, pleading. Sweetheart, you don't understand. I yanked my arm away. No, you don't understand. I pointed at the laptop. I have proof of everything you've done. And now, I leaned in, lowering my voice, you're going to pay me back. Their faces dropped even further. They weren't expecting that. For once, I had the power. And I wasn't done yet. The air in the room shifted. My mom's face crumpled, but I wasn't falling for the fake tears. My dad looked like he was calculating, trying to figure out how to twist this to his advantage. Daniel, fists clenched, was fuming. You want us to pay you back? My dad said finally, his voice low and controlled. That's right, I said, giving him a cold smile. He let out a dry chuckle. And what if we don't? I had been waiting for him to ask that. I clicked on another file, turned the laptop back around, and slid it toward them. Then I said, send this to the IRS. My mom made a choking sound. My dad stiffened. Daniel frowned, clearly confused. The IRS? He asked. What the hell does that mean? I grinned. It means our dear parents have been committing a little thing called tax fraud for the last 5 years. I tapped the screen. Fake deductions, false income reports, and oh look at this, filing you as a dependent even though you make plenty of money under the table. Daniel's head whipped toward them. Wait, what? I nodded. Yeah, you were never as broke as they made you seem. In fact, you've been earning more than me at times, just illegally cash jobs. No taxes. And our parents covered for you by committing fraud. Daniel's face twisted with confusion and then anger. What the hell, Dad? But my dad wasn't looking at him. He was looking at me. And for the first time in my life, I had control. The room was thick with tension, the air heavy with unspoken accusations and years of resentment. I saw the flicker of fear in his eyes as he leaned back in his chair, his voice low and measured. You don't want to do this, he said quietly, his tone almost pleading. I tilted my head, my expression cold and unyielding. Why not? Because we're family. I let out a humorless laugh, the sound sharp and bitter. Family wouldn't have stolen from me. Family wouldn't have lied to my face for years. Family wouldn't have left me to struggle while they threw money at someone who refused to grow up. Daniel shot up from his chair, his face red with anger as he pointed a finger at me. Oh, shut the hell up, you self-righteous, he spat, his voice rising. You think you're so much better than me just because you work some boring office job? You think that makes you more deserving? I met his glare without flinching, my voice steady. Yeah, actually, I do. Because I earned it. My mom sobbed into her hands, her shoulders shaking with exaggerated tears, while my dad rubbed his temple, his face unreadable. And then, something unexpected happened. Daniel laughed, a slow, ugly laugh that sent a chill down my spine. You really think you're going to win this? He asked, shaking his head in mock disbelief. You think you're the only one with leverage? A bad feeling crept up my spine, a knot of dread tightening in my chest. What the hell are you talking about? I demanded, my voice sharp. His smirk widened, and he pulled out his phone, tapping the screen a few times before turning it toward me. My stomach dropped. There on his phone was an email, a complaint from my company's HR department. I scanned it quickly, my heart pounding. It accused me of financial misconduct, of using company funds for personal gain. A setup. A goddamn setup. I looked up at him, shock and anger warring within me. "You framed me," I said, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. He shrugged, his expression smug. "Call it insurance." My mind raced. If my company took this seriously, I could lose my job, my career, everything I had built. And the worst part? I could see it in my parents' faces. They knew. They had helped him. This wasn't just favoritism anymore. This was war. I stared at Daniel's phone, my pulse hammering in my ears. The fake complaint, the setup, the sheer audacity of it all. I forced myself to breathe, to stay calm. Don't give him the reaction he wants. I looked him straight in the eye, my voice steady. "How long have you been planning this?" His smirk widened. "Does it matter? You thought you were the only one playing the game. Guess what? You lost." I turned to my parents, my heart sinking as my dad refused to meet my gaze and my mom wiped at her fake tears. That was my answer. They knew. They had helped him. They were willing to destroy me to keep propping him up. I let out a small, disbelieving laugh. "You really hate me that much?" My mom gasped, her wide-eyed innocence almost comical. "Sweetheart, no. We had to protect him. He's not as strong as you are. He wouldn't survive without us." I shook my head, my voice bitter. "You mean without me?" Daniel snorted. "Oh, get over yourself. You act like you're so special just because you work a crappy job in some office. That crappy job is why you still have a roof over your head, dumbass," I snapped, my patience wearing thin. He rolled his eyes, his confidence unshaken. "You really think you're untouchable, don't you? That company loves me. You're replaceable. And once that complaint goes through, you're gone." Something shifted inside me. For years, I had let this family take from me money, time, energy, love. I had let them make me the responsible one, the one who always had to be the bigger person, the one who never fought back. But this was war. I sat back in my chair, crossing my arms, my voice calm but laced with steel. "You want to play dirty? Fine. Let's play." Daniel opened his mouth to say something cocky, but I cut him off. "You didn't actually send that complaint yet, did you?" He blinked, caught off guard. "What?" I smirked. "Oh, I know you didn't send it yet." I pointed at the screen. "It's still in draft mode." His face twisted in confusion before he quickly swiped his phone back. "So what? I'll send it right now." "Go ahead," I said, leaning in. "Do it." His fingers hovered over the screen, hesitation flickering across his face. That's when I laughed, a deep, bitter laugh. "You're bluffing." He looked up, scowling. "No, I'm not." "Oh, but you are," I said, shaking my head. "You thought you had leverage. You thought you could scare me with this little trick. But you don't even understand how corporate HR works." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "Do you really think my company would take an anonymous complaint at face value? You think they wouldn't investigate? You think they wouldn't find out where it came from?" His smirk faltered, and I laughed again. "Oh, you idiot. You don't even realize how much trouble you're in." He shifted in his seat, trying to regain his confidence. "Even if they investigate, it'll still ruin your reputation." I shrugged. "Maybe. But guess what? I have an actual lawyer. And do you know what's illegal, Daniel?" Silence. I smiled knowingly. "Filing a false report. Defamation. Corporate fraud. I have evidence that I've done nothing wrong. And if you do send that complaint, I will sue you. I will sue this entire family. I will take you all down." I turned to my dad, my voice cold. "And let's not forget your situation." His jaw clenched as I tapped my laptop. "All I have to do is send one email to the IRS, and you're looking at an audit, fines, and maybe even jail time." My mom gasped. "You wouldn't." I tilted my head, my expression icy. Why not? You were ready to let Daniel ruin my career. Why should I protect you? Daniel slammed his fists on the table. You're just bluffing. I shrugged. Try me. A tense silence stretched across the table. For once, they had no control. They were the ones panicking. I stood up slowly, packing up my laptop. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice calm and collected. You're going to drop this little plan of yours. You're going to stop asking me for money. You're going to pay me back, all of it. My dad scoffed. And if we don't? I slung my bag over my shoulder, my voice steady. Then I burn it all down. I turned to leave, but my mom screamed, a raw broken sound that ripped through the dining room. You can't just walk away from us, she wailed. I turned back, staring at her. My father sat stone-faced, his pride keeping him from begging, but my mom, she knew. She knew I was really leaving this time. She scrambled toward me, her voice desperate. We're family. We're all we have. I exhaled slowly, my voice soft but firm. No. I was all you had. Then I looked at Daniel, my voice ice cold. And you? You're nothing to me now. Something flickered in his expression, shock, maybe even fear, but I didn't stay to watch. I walked to the door, stepped outside into the cold November air, and for the first time in my life, I felt free. I never went back. A month later, I got a notification. One of the payments I demanded had gone through. I didn't respond. I focused on myself, my future, my peace. And as for them? Well, I heard from a cousin that the IRS did, in fact, come knocking. I never sent the email, but someone else must have. Funny how karma works.